how do you get yourself to a positive mindset where you choose discipline and you're positive in the discipline? Because you could be negative, knowing this is the right thing. I know this is what I want. I know I want to be healthy. I know I want to be successful in business. I know it takes discipline to show up in business to succeed.
Right.
But then we're still negative about the positive. So I wanted to talk about that.
How do you?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. It's like a setup, right? You already knew I was going there.
But, part of it maybe, I don't know if you're going to say this or not, but part of the conversations that we have always go back to who's around you. Mm-hmm. Who's in your ear? Who are you listening to? Who are you spending your time with? Yep. And it doesn't have to be a physical person. Yep. It could be, what you're reading. What podcasts are you listening to? All of that plays a big part in that, right? Yeah.
If you're a go-getter, faith-driven, and family-focused, and need to break through to your next level, this is the podcast for you. Your self-talk can reshape every area of your life. It's time to dream and think big. Welcome to the Self-Talk Experience with Darnell and Tracy Self. It's time to elevate, baby. Let's get into the show.
Welcome to another episode of the Self-Talk Experience.
Hey, family. How we doing out there today?
Here with my amazing and beautiful co-host, T-Self, Tracy Self, also known as Bougie Beans, if you're not following her on IG, with all the wonderful coffee facts, tips, and experiences.
Yes. Thank you, babe.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we are here to really help people to say better things to themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And we have been so intentional about our own self-talk. This podcast has helped us, quite frankly, to be more aware of what we're saying to ourselves, because the things we say to ourselves about ourselves eventually determines what we attract for ourselves, and even who, like the people around us, who we attract for ourselves.
No, that's so true. And just the episodes that we've been doing, some of them have transformed me. Yeah. I'm not the same person. My thought process is so different from when we started. So a lot of episodes I feel like are for me.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? When we record these episodes and launch them every Thursday, right, we watch them ourselves. Mm-hmm. When we watch it, I'm thinking, and I know this sounds arrogant, but it's not. It's just like, that's so good. It is. And I'm like, oh, that's so good, because I remember turning points, pivotal moments where we started saying different things to ourselves and allowed us to have the freedoms we have today to eliminate the stresses we used to carry. And stresses can be deadly.
Yes. It's funny seriously that you're saying that, because when I watch it, because sometimes we'll do multiple episodes, so I'll forget some of the episodes. Yeah. So when I watch it, I'm thinking, man, I said that? I didn't even know that was in me to say. Yeah. So it's so nice to kind of watch it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And because in preparation for the episodes, we're growing ourselves, right?
Absolutely.
We're like, okay, what is it that we're going to talk about? Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things that helped us out to get to our next level? And that's why it's a self-talk experience. And yes, it's Darnell Self, Tracy Self, our self-talk experience. So our experience that we've had and our guests have had that allowed them to, position themselves differently in life. And I just believe, anyone who's good wants to be great. Anyone who's great wants to be greater. Anyone who's at their best wants to be better. Like, I just can't imagine someone saying, oh, I'm good. Like, hey, look, it is what I'm 35 and it's, I'm good where I am. Like, really? So at 55, you want to be the same as you were at 35?
Well, no, you talk about all the time. You can't bring more value unless you become more valuable. Right. So you have to keep working on yourself so you can have that for yourself and to offer to other people that you want to be around and help grow with you.
Yeah. But I think, some folks don't appreciate that, right? And because I don't know, before we started saying that to ourselves, if we really appreciated it as much as we do today. Right. Because it's easy to say, I just want to add value. Yeah, but if you want to add more value, if you want to add the same value, then you don't have to become any better. But if you want to add more value, so when you put that more in there, hey, I just want to add more value. Well, no, you're going to add the same value because you're not more valuable. So you can't add more value. Maybe you add the same value to more people because you're saying the same thing to different people. So yes, adding more value if you mean to a bigger audience. But if you want to add more value to your existing audience, you have to become more valuable so that you can add different things.
Yeah, I think it's an and.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Not an or.
That's
good. I like when you say that. Like if I say, well, should I get this pair of shoes or this pair of shoes? Why is it either one? Just get both.
You like that?
I love that. I do. Oh, you want to know what else I want to say right before we start talking about our topic today? Also, with the self-talk, I love how now that we are being recognized by this brand.
I know.
So usually when people see you out and about, they'll say, oh, hey, Mr. Self, Mr. Mrs. Self. But today when we were at the gym, somebody said, oh, okay, I see y'all over there self-talk. And I was like, they recognize us by a different brand. So it's so refreshing. So I love that.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah, because most of our income we've earned through one business.
Right.
And so people have known us from that business for a long time. By the way, if you don't have access to lawyers for $1 a day, you're missing out. Make sure you connect with us for a legal shield plan for your small business. All right. So today's topic is positive over negative.
Positive over negative. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So even when sometimes we feel like we're being positive, do you realize some people can be negative in a positive situation?
Like, explain that one.
Like, there could be something good happening in their life and they still find, yes, I was able to lose 10 pounds, but I still don't like the way I look in this dress. Like, they still find like, can you enjoy the win? Right. So the key to being positive, actually being positive, not still finding negative in the positive. Like, sometimes I'm like, this is a great moment for you, but they still find something that's not good, even in a good moment. But
that's a lot with your self-talk too, babe. You have to change your self-talk to get to be more positive. Right? Because you can say positive things internally, but when you open your mouth, it's like, well, that wasn't positive, but you felt like you were being positive, but you really weren't being positive.
Right? Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
But we talk about that too all the time. Sometimes you can be wrong, but positive and still be right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
And the opposite too.
Yeah. No, you're right. So I think that sometimes in a situation, you could say, well, I just don't agree with that situation or agree with that comment. And we can still be positive in that situation. So when you disagree doesn't mean disrespect.
Exactly.
Right? So that's sometimes when people are negative, it becomes disrespectful. But they're still positive. Hey, look, I see your point. They acknowledge that you feel that way. Right. They don't have to agree. Listen, you don't have to agree to acknowledge.
Yeah.
Right? I acknowledge, hey, I respect how you feel. It doesn't mean I agree with it.
Right.
People say, I don't have a lot of time. Well, I know how much time you have. You have 24 hours in a day. But perhaps how you prioritize your time, you feel like you have no time. You actually have the same time I have.
But that takes some personal growth too to receive.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times if you're in conflict with someone and you're having a discussion, even if somebody says, I can appreciate that, but this is how I feel, you have to be open.
Yeah.
You have to be open to that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we'll shut down.
Yeah.
So if I said to you, well, I don't really agree with that, but okay, you can still come back and say, well, what does that mean? Okay. Like it can still kind of go back and forth.
That's
but
my point.
if you're open,
right.
It's like, okay, I'll consider how you feel as well.
Right. That's why being positive is almost like a shield. You know what I mean? When you're positive, you don't take things the same way. If you're negative, you take things so different. Like, look, for an example, there are two pains. There's the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. Either way, you just got to choose which one.
Well, I had the pain of discipline this morning at the gym because that was a lot. But I understand what you're saying.
No, well, the difference is, here's the difference. The difference is, so you've got the pain of discipline and the pain of regret. With the difference, as you know, is the pain of discipline weighs ounces and the pain of regret weighs tons. So the discipline is what you did this morning, getting up at 7 or 6:45 a.m. to go work out.
Right.
That's a discipline. There's some pain in it because you'd rather be asleep. Right? Once you got going, you're like, all right, I'm about to go work out. Let's get in it. Yeah. But you'd rather be asleep. The pain of regret, though, years down the line, you're like, dang, I should have just gotten up. Like, I can't believe I look like this. I can't believe I feel like this. I can't believe, now I'm dealing with this. Right? So you're dealing with an illness that could have been prevented in a healthier body.
Sure.
The disease would not have had the opportunity to attack.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? Maybe the way you feel like you look in your clothes.
And confidence,
right? So that regret is tons. Either way is pain, though. So the point is, how do you get yourself to a positive mindset where you choose discipline And you're positive in the discipline, because you could be negative, knowing this is the right thing. I know this is what I want. I know I want to be healthy. I know I want to be successful in business. I know it takes discipline to show up in business to succeed.
Right.
But then we're still negative about the positive. So I wanted to talk about that.
How do you?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. It's like a setup, right? You already knew I was going there.
But, part of it maybe, I don't know if you're going to say this or not, but part of the conversations that we have always go back to who's around you. Mm-hmm. Who's in your ear? Who are you listening to? Who are you spending your time with? Yep. And it doesn't have to be a physical person. Yep. It could be, what you're reading. What podcasts are you listening to? All of that plays a big part in that, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think one of the challenges that we have is being around people who co-sign with our negativity.
That's huge.
You know what I mean? It's like, girl, I know what you mean. Right. And that breeds the negativity. Like, it creates negativity offspring. Right. It's like two negatives have a baby, and now the baby grows up and it's a monster because its parents are monsters.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's you and I together who are negative create a negativity, a negative environment that's our baby.
Right.
And that thing is ruthless.
But you still have to allow that small space to vent. Right. Because we talk about that all the time.
Yeah. That's different, though. Being able to have someone who has a sounding board and say, hey, can I vent, and express how you feel about a situation is different than, I think, what we're trying to help our audience to position themselves to win while you're winning.
I just want to make sure I still have that window with you. This is a question. This is for me. This is not about you, family.
It's not about the audience.
It's not about our family. It's about.
Yeah.
So I still can.
You can still do that.
Okay, great.
So, but what I feel is happening in a lot of cases, this is with a lot of people we deal with, a lot of people we help,
sure,
to get to their next level mentally, because a lot of this is right between our ears, and when we get that space operating where it is habitually positive, we start attracting the very thing that occupies our mind most. So if it is negative, I can't believe this, here I go again, we start attracting more of it, and it's a downward spiral. Right? Self-prophesizing. And so, because we keep thinking that I know this is going to happen, and it does. So what I'm saying is, if we have some movement, if we have some momentum, enjoy that. Speak kindly about the progression.
Right.
Instead of, I thought I was going to lose 5, I only lost 2. I'm just talking about weight right now, right? Instead of saying, I'm so excited I lost 2 on my journey to losing 5.
Right.
See the difference?
Right.
And so all of a sudden, you giving yourself an opportunity to celebrate instead of being discouraged by not hitting the goal.
Right.
And this happens in finances too. You set the goal to make $10,000 in a month, and you made 8. And it's like, I can't believe I missed the 10. Now, it's okay, like you said, to vent.
Sure.
It's okay to say, man, my goal was 10, but man, I am so excited. I've never done 8 before. What a moment to celebrate.
Right.
Celebrate the discipline it took to make 8, the commitment, because that was a pain. Yeah. People don't just make 8,000. They've never made 8,000 in a month. Yeah. They don't just grow to 8,000 and it wasn't some discipline involved, some showing up when they didn't feel like it, some making a call when they didn't want to, when they were afraid, prospecting someone, making a sale, feeling embarrassed, feeling like they were disqualified because they didn't have the training that someone else had.
Right.
So you got to overcome all of that. That's all discipline. That's all self-talk that helps you to get to a place where you feel like, you know what? I've moved beyond who I used to be. And now I've got a win because of that. Let's celebrate that win, because I know you making that type of income that you've never made before. I know what went along with that. I know there was some courage you had to develop, and you can't develop courage without the presence of fear. And so what we're trying to do is avoid the fear, because we look at fear as negative, but fear is actually a positive if it's developing your courage. Show me someone who's ever been courage without fear, or ever been courageous without fear.
Right. Right.
Show me someone who's ever been courageous without fear. It's never existed. You can't. How do you define courage if there's no fear?
Right. Yeah.
Like, think about it. How do you define it? Well, I was courageous. Well, unless there was some fear there, you didn't need to have courage. If there's no fear, you don't need courage, because you're going to do it anyway. But if there was fear there and you still did it, that was courage.
Right.
You follow what I'm saying? So that's the power here, guys. And all I'm saying is don't look at that as a negative. We'll look at adversity as a negative. Well, if the adversity is teaching you how to overcome something that you wouldn't have overcome without the adversity, actually the adversity was positive.
Right.
It was not negative.
Right.
If the objection in the sale helped you to learn how to overcome the next objection, then actually the objection wasn't negative. You're like, man, I can't believe they said that. I can't believe they didn't buy. Well, actually, that was a positive, not a negative, if it helped you to learn what you could have done better for the next time you sell.
Right. And again, having someone around you that encourages that.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, man, I thought you were supposed to make 10. You only made 8.
Right. Right.
Because that's discouraging.
No, absolutely right.
Right.
Someone who's celebrating that and is like, look, you made 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? That's a big deal.
Exactly.
And so you say, man, I know what our goal was 10. And listen, man, here we go. Reset. Let's go again.
Yeah. And sometimes it takes a minute to identify that someone's really not being positive for you.
Yeah.
Because you may be conditioned to being around that person and kind of used to their responses and how they function with you.
Yeah.
So just maybe starting to pay attention.
Yeah.
And when you do find that someone is helping you and being positive, make sure you say, you know what, thank you. I'm starting to realize you're my person.
Yeah.
Right? So you may share more with them because they may help you more. They may not even be realizing it.
Yep.
And they can be even more helpful to you.
Yep.
Right?
We on one of our previous podcasts, we talked about why it's important for you to work on you so that the people around you become better. Mm-hmm. Right? When you become better, your inner circle becomes better.
Right.
Right? As long as you're not buying into them, if they're not becoming better, they should be buying into you. Or we have to remove ourselves from that circle. Right? So in saying that, you're spot on, because I know that as I've worked on myself, you have been able to encourage that. Like, oh my gosh, that's so good. I've never heard you say that before.
Right.
So it's an encouragement for me to continue to work on myself, because how I love myself is how I teach other people to love me.
Yeah, because sometimes you may feel like you're not going in the right direction if you don't get any feedback.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's
you
what I'm
don't
saying.
need it, but it helps.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So so it's just key, guys. So get yourself to a place where first you catch yourself being negative in a situation where there's positivity there. And maybe even redefine what we've been calling negative, because perhaps it's positioning you to teach you something. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the things I looked at, whether it be relationships, businesses, have taught me how to treat myself. Like in certain situations, I'm like, you know what? I'm not treating myself how I should be treating myself. I'm beating up on myself when I should be rewarding myself because I overcame that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Even though it was not my desired result, when I stepped back, I still made it through it.
Yeah.
I overcame it. I pushed through it. That was a positive in the negative. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, I now have to learn how to treat myself in a positive way, because I found something positive, which could have been negative. It could have been perceived as negative. Now watch this. When I learn how to treat myself differently and better, I'm also teaching the people around me how to treat me. Because if I beat up on myself often, I'm actually giving permission to others to beat up on me as well, because they think that's how I want to be treated. Remember, how you treat yourself, you're unintentionally sometimes teaching people how to treat you.
That's such an aha moment, because what we are taught and what we always function as is you have to make sure you're looking out for how people are treating you. Mm-hmm. But that's good, because if you're not treating yourself, you don't even know what to look for. Right. You don't even know if it's not okay. That's not okay how you're talking to me. That's not okay how you're treating me, because I haven't even defined what's okay for myself.
That's exactly right.
Right?
That's exactly right.
So you have to reverse it.
Yep.
And start here and then look out there.
Yeah.
But the way I was always thinking, just growing up, is I have to look out to look in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's such a great...
Yeah, it's a different perspective, right? Based on our self-talk podcast, right? It's a self-talk experience. So think about this. If I say certain things to myself, I'm fat, I'm big, I'm a loser, and someone else hears me saying those things, and they're like, hey, because, unfortunately, you've been losing lately. I mean, you taught them how to say that.
Yeah.
They heard you say that to you, so they think it's okay to say it because you say it to you.
You said it, right.
right? You said, hey, I'm just a loser. And they're like, hey, I know you've been losing lately, but get yourself together. And you're like, I can't believe they call me a loser. You call you a loser.
You gave them permission to say
You are
it.
giving them permission.
Yeah.
And I know it's not right.
Yeah.
I know people shouldn't demean people.
And you're
be
unintentionally
insensitive.
doing it.
That's exactly right. So it's like the whole talk, having free time and being available are two different things. Just because I'm available or just because I have free time doesn't mean I'm available. That free time could be for me. That's for me to read. That's for me to recharge. That's for me. So yes, in my schedule, I have availability, but that's my free time. That's my time for me. So now if I can't place boundaries around that, I'm teaching people how to treat me when I'm available because they think that's just free time for anybody.
Well, you choose that.
Right, exactly right.
You're in charge of that.
So all I'm saying is there's positive even in situations that we may have previously defined as negative. And our goal with this particular episode is to help you to see the positive, even if the situation seems negative. And when the situation is positive, stop looking for the negative.
Yeah.
Right? Let the situation be positive and celebrate the positive. And stop taking away from the movement. Stop taking away from the progression. Stop taking away from the positivity that you've just gained. You worked hard for that. Yeah. Let yourself celebrate it. These are the things we have to say to ourselves.
I love it.
Good. All right, guys, it's been another episode of the Self-Talk Experience. And remember, the things we say to ourselves about ourselves eventually determine what we attract for ourselves.
And don't forget, treat me nice because I treat myself nice.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Self-Talk Podcast with Darnell and Tracy Self. We hope you enjoyed. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. And we'll see you next time. And remember, talk good to yourself.